Hello everybody, Tim Starace here and welcome to Studio 21. Now that the whole world is going back to gigging again, we're going to talk about the SansAmp PSA 2.0 and how to use it in real world gigging situations. Low-tech pedal boards, high-tech pedal boards, and every configuration you could think of. The PSA 2.0 is an all-analog tube amp emulator. It's like having a whole truckload of amps at your disposal in this nice small little compact package that you can fit in your pocket. So today I have Andrew Barta,
Hello.
inventor, president, boffin, and Chris Dellis, our tech supportologist. I almost said that correctly. Chris has played guitar professionally from coast to coast, Broadway, rock and roll, recording, and he's the guy on the other end of the emails and the phone when you call. And he's not just reading from a flow chart when he's helping you out. He has real world knowledge of the products. So Andrew, what is the SansAmp PSA 2.0 all about?
Well, PSA stands for Programmable SansAmp, and we had the previous versions, the 1 and 1.1, in a rec format. But nowadays, people like to travel light. They have a pedal board, or maybe not even a pedal board. This little thing can do almost anything that has to do with amp simulation, overdrive, fuzz, distortion. So if you have a nice delay unit or reverb, you probably are set. But you can also build a pedal board with it, and that's where it comes really handy, that you can go into like performance mode. So right now it's in regular mode. You can go through different presets, or you can even jump. But if you go to performance mode, you're really just going to have 3 of them and a bypass. So any of the presets you push again, it goes to bypass. That's what the minus means. It doesn't mean that you don't have a sound. It's bypass. So that makes it really simple to operate in a live situation.
So performance mode is basically 3 presets that you can control every configuration of,
right,
and have at your disposal. Because I mean, like when you're playing live, really, what do you need? You know, you could have a dirty, a clean, a fuzz, plus you get a pass-through. So you really have 4 options at your disposal when it's in performance mode.
Exactly.
Right, that's
and
cool.
you can make quick adjustments and tweaks manually because everything is in front of you.
Right.
To modify your amp sounds or distortion sound. And it's many times when you arrive to a gig and you set up and you get a good sound, it changes later when the audience comes in or other factors change, and then you need to make adjustments. So in this case, you don't have to go into submenus or find your position where you can adjust your EQ. Everything is in front of you. All you have to do is turn that knob and you get that sound adjusted immediately. So let's just hear this because that's the fun part. So bypass.
Just the guitar.
We're going through a Fender amp right here. It's a very average Fender amp, you know, set up clean. But the clean sound is not inspiring. So we create a cooler one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice.
It gives you that sound of an amplifier turn up, but not distorting yet, but gives you the richness of an amplifier. Then we have like a crunchy sound.
That sounds really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we have the overdrive.
Crank Marshall.
Yeah, so that's 3. But if you're one of those guys who need much more, we have up to 127. Okay.
Wow, there's a lot in that little package.
Right, and we're going to show that later, how to operate that. You can have an external pedal, or you can also go into search mode. So right now, when I go to like another preset, it's not changing the sound. It's still the same until I enter it.
So you can load up in advance what you want to go to next, and it doesn't take effect until you engage it.
Right, that's the search function. We try to figure out the way that with 3 foot switches, you can still access the 127 programs.
3 foot switches and 1 foot. and you can do it.
Well, you know.
What I really like about what you're demonstrating today is the fact that it sounds, well, I'm hearing tones that normally you get from a Marshall cranked up. That you have
Right,
to
and
yell
we're going
at.
through a Fender,
Right,
yes.
and we're going into a little Fender, and we're able to talk over it at a nice, comfortable volume,
Right.
but that sound is still there.
And not even talk about that in case if your amp goes down, this sound actually can go direct to the board.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's already speaker simulated. That's what this little purple light shows you. When I turn it off, it's not.
Oh, wow, that sounds so much better.
It's a little bit warmer, but it's not a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes in. Then when you use IRs are really not suitable going through an amp.
Right.
Okay, because now you're double stacking different features. I don't want to get into the details. Maybe one day we can do a separate program on
Absolutely.
that. But the analog speaker simulation is really suitable to go either way, going through an amp or going into the mixing board. And you can choose that, and then that's part of the program. So you can program that into your presets.
Cool. Really cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing this puppy in action, you know, in conjunction with, you know, some other pedals and maybe, like you said, you know, a MIDI pedal to switch, you know, to show its full capability. So
what I would do also is just quickly show how easy to make the changes on the fly and how wide ranging those changes could be. So Chris, play something and I'll start to tweak. Now here's a cool thing. If I like this sound for some reason.
yeah, that does sound pretty cool.
Okay, I can push save. Okay, now I have a choice to put this save sound anywhere in the 127 spot. But let's say I just want to stay here. So now it's saved.
Boom.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like a cool, like clean sound. Now I want to make a dirty one. Too much bass. Let's say I like this. Save. Go one up. Okay. So now I have the dirty and I have a clean.
Nice.
And if you notice, when I make a switching, it's immediate. There's
Right.
no programs to load in. There's no latency in the sound because it's all analog.
Right. Well, what I love about the old analog stuff is the way we do analog amplifier emulation is, you know, the guitar, the human, is outputting music, and music is going into our product. It's being sent through, you know, the amp, what I love about our products, no, really, what I love about our products is you have a human being with an instrument sending music into our amplifier emulation technology that you designed. You know, it came from your being and your soul, and it goes through there and it outputs as music.
Right.
Whereas with the simulation stuff, you know, music is going in
Into an algorithm.
through various algorithms. It's turned into ones and zeros, and then depending on whatever software is, you know, inserted in there, it outputs what that software thinks it sounds like.
Right, right.
You know, so
You kind of break the chain of the direct interaction between the musician and the amplifier
absolutely,
or audience.
the humanity.
Yeah,
you know,
and
kinda goes away.
Chris has actually told me about that because he plays a lot more than I do lately. That you know, even the guitar interacts with analog equipment differently.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey Chris, how was that thing that you told me? Because you use both. You use sometimes you're forced. I heard using digital emulation.
I guess where it really came home to me, I was doing a Broadway show a number of years ago, and I'm playing the guitar. It's all pre-programmed on the modeler. I won't mention the name. And I just started to lower my guitar to try to do what I normally do with an amplifier. The noise gate kicks in, it doesn't respond, and it's like, and another friend of mine, who's actually a well-known player, said after he got done with the gig using the same thing, his arm hurt because he was hitting the guitar, trying to make the thing respond a certain way, and it just
wears you out.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, so you really kind of have to conform to those devices and play in a very certain way, where with this, if I'm using my tube amp or if I'm using this, I'm still going to play in the same manner. So it doesn't force me to adapt. And that's what I really prefer about
And
this.
I assume you have more artistic expression because you can change the tone with your playing style instead of relying on changing programs to get a different tone.
Well, yeah, correct. I mean, when you're as old as me, or been playing a long time, you sort of learn to use the volume knob on the guitar, and just by expression, by picking lighter, picking harder, and the amp responds, and the SansAmp does in the same way. What I found with certain digital devices, it's almost like playing a keyboard patch. You just have to hit a different patch for that sound. You can't get it to do what you want it to do.
That is such a great analogy, the keyboard patch. You know, also a musician, even though I'm just a step above a drummer. Okay, I'm a bass player, and I play with my fingers. And when I messed around with, you know, the modeling stuff and the plugins and digital stuff, I do find, you know, because I have like this really close relationship with the string, because I'm touching it with my fingers, that I just kind of lost that tiny little bit of you know, humanity in my playing, you know, running through that stuff. Maybe it was all in my head, maybe not, but I don't experience any of that with our stuff. You know, if I play light, which I do on very rare occasions, you know, it responds accordingly. You know, when I dig in, it sounds like I'm pushing that, you know, 2 preamp section. You know, so, you know, I like your analogy with the keyboard patch.
Well, the thing you can't really convey with any product when you're watching a video of it or even hearing it is the feel.
Yeah.
I mean, most guitar players, if you're using like, say, 10s or 8s or 11s, whatever, it changes the feel of the guitar.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with different devices, you can't convey that with a video or an audio recording. That's something the player experiences. And I think that's the one thing that people miss with all this stuff. They say, oh, it sounds like whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, the recording process is not a transparent process. You know, when you hear a recorded guitar sound, it's not meant to be a faithful recreation
Right.
of what the amplifier sounds like. It's not like recording Yo-Yo Ma's cello. We're not doing that. We want to make it sound good within the track, and that's certainly valid.
Absolutely.
But for me as a player, the amplifier, the modeler, you know, whatever device you're going into is part of the instrument. And when I play through a modeler, I don't feel like I'm playing the same instrument.
Right. Well,
when I use our stuff, I do.
Exactly. That's why I like to tell people, you know, to try stuff out. You know, I mean, you can't explain to somebody what a rose smells like. They can only find out for themselves by putting it up to their nose. You know, so you have to mess around.
And by the way, it's a perfect example, like a actual keyboard, like a Steinway piano. You can have a digital sample of that, and it's going to sound exactly the same, but it's not going to feel the same.
No.
Why do they still have those pianos in concert halls, and why all the top piano players using them?
Yeah.
Because it feels different. It's inspiring. It has the dynamics. It has so many things that I cannot even explain. You have to be a musician to really feel and understand that, and that's the real instrument.
Yeah.
And as Chris said, your instrument is not just your guitar. It's the whole signal chain. And that's what this unit also does, is not just emulates the amplifier, but emulates different preamps, like boosters, or treble booster, mid booster, or fuzz pedal and distortion, we can show that, and that's why it's broken down to two different drives. One is the gain on the input, and the other one is the drive. The drive is more like your power amp, and the gain on the input with the bus punch crunch is your preamp or effect, like overdrive effect, that you can tailor and custom build. So you're not locked into like just one like Marshall or Fender sound. You can actually mix something out in between, and you can also compensate for different guitars. Some guitars have more mid-range, like a Les Paul, and some guitars are brighter, like a Strat. And then you can compensate that to make it sound really perfect with that amplifier that you are setting up here.
So are you telling me that you can dial in a Fender and a Marshall characteristics into one?
Yes, and you can actually sweep in between them and stop at the point where it is right for you.
So like a Farshall or
Yeah.
a Mender. Maybe a Fox.
Mender sounds a little better than Farshall.
Mender. Yeah,
Farshall
yeah, I have
sounds
to
like
say Mender.
bathroom humor.
Yeah. Can we get the copyright office on the line? I think we're onto something.
Yeah. But yes, absolutely, you can do that. And I mean, we can do something really quick. Let's see. Okay. Okay. You tell me what kind of sound is this reminds you of?
A guitar?
No, like what amp? What amp is this?
You got me, man. I'm
Bass player, right?
yeah, do it between a GK and an SVT.
Well,
And a Fender
it's
bass.
supposed to be a Fender, okay?
Yeah.
We can make it to a Marshall. So now you have like a Marshall, and then you can start dialing back if you want to make it a little bit more towards the Fender.
Right.
And now you have somewhere in between. And that's the really cool thing that some artists did using pedals.
Right.
For example, if you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan, his Fender sound is not the particular Fender sound,
Right.
because
Oh,
what he
definitely
did,
not.
he used a tube screamer to accentuate the mid-range and push those mid frequencies that a Marshall would. So his sound was some kind of a hybrid. And that's what all great artists do.
Right.
Is they create their own sound with some external pedals or effect devices. Brian May had the treble booster into the Vox.
Yeah.
We have like a Big Muff into a Marshall, or even a high watt. That would be like a Pink Floyd sound.
Yeah, Gilmore.
You know, Gilmore, yeah.
Famous sound.
Or Richie Blackmore and Deep Purple used like a tape recorder's preamp into a Marshall to
Right.
take it to the next level. So there's always some kind of a modifying going on. Sometimes the modifying is actually changing parts in the amplifier, but you need to know what you're doing,
Right.
otherwise you could actually kill yourself. There are some really high voltages, and you have to pay a lot of money for it. But what we do here, we give you those possibilities just with these simple controls: buzz, punch, and crunch, which one controls the distortion in different frequencies. And then you can custom tailor it to your guitar and to your amp.
Cool. I'm telling you, it's quite the beast.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm really excited, Andrew, to see this puppy in action,
Okay.
real world on a pedal board, okay, connected with some other effects and pedals.
Yeah, normally you always want to have a little bit extra. Chris, tell us about what would you do if you have like a gig that you don't want to take too much, but you want to have your basic core sound.
Yeah, usually what I'll do is, especially if I'm using backlines, I'll bring one of our units. You know, could either be the PSA or one of our other pedals, and I'll kind of get that to be my basic amplifier tone. And then I'll just use pedals like I would with any other amp. You know, I'll just maybe use a distortion pedal in front of it. Chorus, I mean, you know, in this case, delay. You know, they're just some bread and butter effects you need. what's nice about the PSA 2 is that I could kind of extend that paradigm a little bit, where I could set it up for performance mode, and with this one pedal have 3 sounds. So I may not necessarily need to use that, or may just use that to enhance the different presets. Like we're like in 1 now.
Clean, yeah.
So if you hit the tube screamer, like so, and same with if we go into like 2, like the crunch mode, we can take it a little bit more over the top, like.
Yeah, and you can hear it that the tube screamer really works well.
Right, it's still going to respond in the same way it would with an amp, because of the way the circuit is designed. It's all working together. You know, and some, I know some guys have said with some of the modelers, they can't really use their pedals in the same way, because if you run a really hard boost into the modeler and overload that input stage, it's going to be unusable. Where with this, even if you set the level up really high, which you don't need to do,
we have it at max. Yeah,
it's still gonna
Sounds like
work.
an amp. You know, it really does. You know, it sounds like an amplifier.
Right. Yeah. It's just the way it works. It's just always going to saturate. I mean, that's the way the whole thing. That's why we can get fuzz sounds out of this thing by programming it in a certain way, because it's just going to keep saturating, which is what you want. When you go into you know, a digital analog converter, you get to a point where
there's no saturation there.
No, there's no saturation.
Well, just the ceiling, and when you hit that, it's going to sound really
You
bad.
run into a brick wall of ones and zeros.
Exactly. What I wanted to also show is we have MIDI control here. So when you have a MIDI delay, you can sync the two together, and using presets on both. I have to go back. Yeah.
Ah, that's nice. So this is basically an example of the different ways you can connect the SansAmp PSA 2.0
Right, and this
in your
is
pedal
still
board.
a fairly simple setup.
Right.
We just use this big board, but basically if you take this, and this, it still fits in your gig bag, and you can do a whole gig with it, because with the delay you can create chorus sounds, you can have reverb sounds. With this you can access all the programs, and you can write your programs, and sometimes you can even just change this one, but still keeping the same delay, or change on here and change the delay but keep the same overdrive. And with this you can sync the two together and change them together.
So basically, you know, traditionally your pedal board you'd carry in, throw in front of you, and your amp will be behind you. But with the SansAmp PSA 2.0, you really don't need the amp because it's sitting on your pedal board. And then with the addition of the MIDI Mongoose, you can even have more capabilities and programs that you set up in advance.
Yeah, I mean, now we're still running in performance mode.
Right.
Basically what you could do is if you want to use a lot more presets, you take this out of performance mode.
Yeah, like now. And then there's 22,
right, and program it.
32 empty, I guess. No, it's clean.
Cool.
So you could just program your set, you know, if you want 10 sounds, 20 sounds, it's all going to correspond, and you can just program that for whatever sound you want. The same with that, so it all coincides. So you hit, say, preset 5, and that's a clean sound with a slapback delay. Press like preset 10, that's a high gain sound with a long trailing delay with repeats, whatever you want.
Yeah,
you know,
infinite.
so it gives you that flexibility.
Right. And you know, as I said, like you can even downsize this, because you can create different overdrive and fuzz sounds from the PSA. You get rid of this, because you can do chorus with this one. Can you do reverb with this one?
There's a
little bit.
patch in
Yeah,
there that
okay.
you can get kind of close to a reverb sound.
So what I'm saying basically with the delay unit and the PSA, you almost can get everything that you really want.
Right.
Right, and if you like the reverb on your amp, you could just use the reverb on your amp if you like that, and just use that for delay. But you know, it's pretty basic. It can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be, really.
It's a powerful little puppy, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, if I had had something like the SansAmp PSA 2.0 when I was a little nugget learning how to play bass, you know, it would have been so awesome, you know, to have, you know, preset tones like Getty, Gene Simmons, you know, Steve Harris and all that I could use as a starting point, you know, to kind of dial in my own thing. You
And
know,
develop your own sound.
absolutely, because the PSA has, what, 49 presets in it that could
Correct.
get you in the ballpark to practically anything that you're into or you like, and then you could take it from there. You know, it's a really cool thing, and, you know, I do believe my head may have exploded had I had such an awesome device such as this way back in the day. All right, so as I mentioned before, with the head exploding and stuff, the SansAmp PSA 2.0 is not just for guitar, it's for every freaking instrument out there, and
Especially for bass.
especially for bass. And I'm going to do some bass stuff, because I do bass. Awesome coolness riff, courtesy of Richie Kotzen. His new album, 50 and 50. I can't get that song out of my head. Turn the tables. Boom. So yeah, so that's the SVT setting. I
That's
remember
right.
when you guys sent me this, when it first came out, and I was kind of looking at all these presets, 49 of them, and I went right to SVT, because that's what I do. I go right to SVT. Boom, 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 number 30, plugged it in, played it, and I think I immediately called John on the phone and said, John, the SVT setting on this thing is just freaking killer. But there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean,
But here's the cool thing. Now we can turn up the drive. And what you get is basically you're getting the SVT without blowing it up, but crank the crap out of it.
oh yeah. It sounds like my classic, you know, with the gain slammed,
Yeah.
timed. And it has nice clean tones too, you know. Nice.
Yep.
You know, and then there's like really overdrive tones in there. But what's cool about it is, you know, there's all these presets that I can just start with. You know, if I have something in my head that I want to hear, and then tweak it from there, and then
tweak it,
save
yeah.
it. You just hit a little button and save it. But yeah, it's killer on bass as well as pretty much everything else.
We have people using it on cello,
Oh yeah.
violin,
Totally.
even vocals,
I got something upstairs.
drums.
You're stealing my thunder, Andrew. Anyway, you'll see it. I got this little something upstairs that I'm going to plug it into and maybe do like even just a little cell phone video, and it's going to sound incredible.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds
and that's
like
going to
a
be a
deal.
surprise at the end of the video. Yep. I'm going to play this again. That riff is just killer. If you hear the way it carries over like into the first few beats of the second measure, it's just great.
Yeah.
God.
And you know, like the P bass really comes alive because you normally use like a jazz bass,
Yes.
right, or a Rick,
Yeah.
because they have that top end.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get that. But with this, we can go a little bit extra and
yeah.
and
No, it
take
sounds killer.
that top end and just really present it properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. All right, everybody.
Bye bye.
We're out. Bye-bye. Cut.
Cut.